I'm going to ask, please, if we could adhere to the time. We're not going to solve all of our problems, but we want to capture the highlights of what it is that you're doing to make a difference in 3 minutes or less. I know you've come a long way for this, but you have boardrooms, and that's where the action is, and we'd like to get you into the boardrooms as quickly as possible. That being the case, I'd like to move on to His Excellency Yor Frimpong Addo, the Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture in the Republic of Ghana, and I'd like to talk about food inflation as a leading cause of poverty in Africa. What can we do? What must be done to urgently reverse this trend? Over to you, Your Excellency. Again, 3 minutes, please.
All right, thank you so much. First of all, let me join my other colleagues to thank the President of ADB and the President of Senegal for giving us this opportunity to talk about food in Africa. Having done that, let me say that inflation, people have definitions for inflation, and we all know that it is the rate of increases in prices of items. But in any inflationary situation, the basket includes food items. And in a lot of African countries, which have been hit by the three tragedies, I call the three tragedies, the climate change, the tragedy of climate change, the second one being the Ukraine-Russia situation, and of course the third one being what some other people describe as can get this one. So let's move on. So the three tragedies have combined to increase poverty in Africa. And how did it happen? This inflation thing we are talking about. If the food inflation that we are talking about is such that we are now buying food items at a certain price that is over the roof. You see, the prices of food items in Africa have gone through the roofs. And how did it come about? We have imported inflation and what we call internal inflation. The imported inflation, as a result of what has happened globally, the effect of globalization has affected the supply chains. All the supply chains have been negatively affected, and most of the food items that have been imported into Africa, we don't have control over these the prices of these items. So the poor in Africa, most African countries have been hit so hard by this inflation. And then locally, because of what has happened to the world, we are facing these high increases in fuel prices, and that has cascaded into the prices of food items that we have in this country. So we have these challenges facing Africa, most African countries. In Ghana, for example, before 2022, we had a 10 years food inflation rate of just 10%. And in December 2022, this jumped to 59%. And if you look at that rate, you realize that a lot of people are going to be impoverished for a long time to come. So how do we bring this thing down? And that brings to the next question of what do we do? So it behoves on all African countries, not only Ghana, all African countries, to increase production, food production. How do we increase food production? By creating the enabling environment, one, to allow the private sector to join government and developing partners to join government to increase avenues for food production. And when we get this increased food production, what has been a major problem of most countries is a lot of the produce going waste. Okay. A lot of the produce going waste. And once they are going waste, then we need to increase our processing capacities. And also we need to encourage the youth to come into agriculture. Again, we need to employ a lot of technology in agriculture. We need to expand infrastructure in agriculture in Africa. And if you combine, we are able to do all this. And we link the production base to the markets to encourage, especially the women groups in a lot of African countries who are into agric. And we accept that the vulnerable groups in a lot of these African countries are those who are bearing the brunt of this food inflation and therefore poverty. Then we need to tackle all these areas that will enhance their productivity. We encourage them to go into agriculture. So if, in a nutshell, in a summary, if I should put it this way, that Africa is facing this food inflation because of what has happened globally. And before we can get out of this, we should look at institutions like the AFDB.
Honorable Minister, I'm going to have to move us on. If you could just, in 15 seconds or less, kindly conclude your thoughts.
All right.
I do apologize, but we do have to move on and get you into the boardrooms as quickly as possible.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me put this in summary, just saying that Africa is at the crossroads right now. And from all indications from yesterday's to today, we have had the impression that there's that high commitment from a lot of our leaders. And once that commitment is there, I think we can improve the food situation in Africa through effective production. And by doing that, restoring the supply chains around the world, I am sure we are going to get out of this in no time so that poverty levels that are so high in a lot of African countries will be reduced considerably. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Yor Frimpong from Ghana. Again, increasing food production, private sector engagement, value addition, and taking advantage of the global challenges that we have with whether it's climate change, whether it's the war in Ukraine, as well as the pandemics that we've had to deal with, forcing us to look inward and meet our needs internally. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We'll take the next question from His Excellency Kyakulagha Fred Bueno, the Minister for Finance, Planning and Development, the Republic of Uganda. And my question to you is this. Agriculture, as we've said, is a multi-sectoral enterprise. It involves a number of ministries: IT, transportation, land, water resources. It's not a single silo enterprise. What is it that your country is doing to deliver on its Presidential Agricultural Delivery Council to ensure that these sectors work together to deliver as one and not as a silo?
I thank you very much. First of all, I want to correct. I'm not the Minister of Finance. I'm the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. Secondly, I want to thank the President of the African Development Bank for this initiative and the President of Senegal for hosting us. Now, to come to your question, as a country, Uganda, we have come up with a new approach to planning and implementation of such multi-sectoral activities. We have what we call a programmatic approach. So we look at a program. We look at, for example, all the sectors and the ministries that contribute to food security and nutrition security, and we put them in one category called a program. And we have the agro-industrialization program that addresses issues of food security, nutrition security, and food production. This program has ministries including the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. We have the Ministry of Water. We have the Ministry of Trade Industry and Cooperatives, we have the Ministry of Transport. Now, what happens is that we do the planning together. We do the implementation together. And we do the monitoring together. And by doing that, we avoid duplication. We also avoid wastage of resources. We increase on efficiency and effectiveness of dealing with the problem. But besides that, we also have the Office of the Prime Minister in Uganda that coordinates government so that through that arrangement of the Office of the Prime Minister, we are able to work together as ministries involved in the agro-industrialization. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and I want to again stand corrected, and I do apologize for the snafu earlier. Let me reference you properly. Major, retired, Kiakulaga Fred Bueno, Member of Parliament and State Minister for Agriculture. That is the appropriate appellation for you. So we want to thank you again for your contributions and recognizing the programmatic approach that you have to agriculture through an agro-industrial program, joint monitoring, and oversight again by multiple leaders in the country. Your president is a farmer, a distinguished one for that matter, so this is no surprise, and we want to say congratulations to you and to the government of Uganda. Our next question will go to His Excellency Paul Valentin Ngobo, the Minister of Agriculture, the Republic of Congo. Now, some of the simplest truths about life are the most profound. And one of them at this summit is that without women, there is no agriculture or food production in Africa. This being the case, what should be done to support women farmers and women-owned agricultural businesses to ensure that they indeed become co-partners, equal participants of what really is a multi-billion-dollar continent-wide enterprise? Over to you, Your Excellency.
Merci pour cette question. Oui, comme tout le monde, je voudrais commencer par remercier le président Macky Sall et le président de la Banque africaine de développement pour cette invitation. Alors, vous me posez une question sur les femmes, c'est toujours délicat de parler des femmes. Je m'attendais peut-être à ce que ça tombe sur la seule femme que nous avons ici, mais je vais essayer d'en parler, et surtout en me focalisant sur peut-être ce que nous faisons chez nous, parce que c'est peut-être pas généralisable. C'est toujours compliqué, les femmes. Alors oui, les femmes, je crois que c'est un peu...
No, and the reason for that is very simple. I think sometimes we try to limit women questions to women. But as men, we also need to be very sensitive to the contributions of women in our country. So again, Honorable Minister, I'm going to put you on the spot, but I'm going to give you 4 minutes to respond to that question and the one that you have on your mind.
Je suis tout à fait d'accord. Elle représente une part importante de la main-d'œuvre dans le secteur agricole et donc des initiatives agricoles, c'est tout à fait normal. Mais simplement, nous savons tous qu'elles sont confrontées à beaucoup de problèmes. Dans mon pays, la surface exploitée est très faible. Je crois que statistiquement, c'est autour de 0,5 hectares, vous voyez, en moyenne. Bon. On sait également qu'elles utilisent des outils rudimentaires. Elles ne sont pas très organisées, il y a des problèmes d'accès à la terre, même si dans mon pays, peut-être à la différence d'autres pays, elles peuvent acquérir des terres, mais c'est plus un problème d'argent. Mais tout à l'heure, dans le panel précédent, j'ai entendu quand même des gens insister sur la petite taille. Il fallait que ça devienne un peu des structures beaucoup plus importantes et qu'il y avait un problème de professionnalisation. Voilà, donc on a ces problèmes-là partout, l'accès au financement, aux intrants, l'usage d'outils rudimentaires, etc. Alors, dans mon pays, au Congo, qu'est-ce que nous avons fait? On s'est dit, nous devons améliorer les conditions d'exercice de l'agriculture, premièrement, et deuxièmement, devons professionnaliser. Alors, comment est-ce que nous faisons cela? Nous avons opté pour une stratégie d'agglomération des acteurs. Agglomération, regroupement sur un même espace, à travers le concept de zone agricole protégée. Bon, zone agricole, tout le monde comprend. Le protéger, c'est parce que nous voulons que ces espaces-là soient protégés de toute pression industrielle immobilière demain. Parce que nous avons vu autour de Brazzaville, de Pointe-Noire, qu'avec le temps, on a perdu des espaces de production maraîchère. Donc aujourd'hui, nous avons cette stratégie de zone agricole protégée dans laquelle nous aménageons, nous installons donc un certain nombre d'infrastructures, c'est peut-être de l'eau, donc des forages, on construit des maisons, nous préparons la terre, c'est une forme de financement en nature, parce qu'on sait que la question du financement n'est pas facile. Et nous faisons passer les productrices de 0,5 hectares en moyenne à 10 hectares. Donc ça veut dire qu'on augmente la surface. Ça peut être des femmes qui fonctionnent en coopérative, donc on est dans l'entrepreneuriat coopératif, mais elles peuvent être également comme individualité, et donc là on est dans l'entrepreneuriat conventionnel. Donc cela nous permet de nous focaliser sur l'essentiel, c'est-à-dire qu'elles sont regroupées, organisées à cet endroit, mais nous nous focalisons sur la question des rendements. Nous intervenons sur toute la chaîne. On peut les aider en matériel, préparation de sol, matériel, semences, fertilisants. Je vous ai dit que c'est une forme de financement en nature. Et ça peut aller jusqu'à la transformation en fonction des spéculations, des cultures retenues et de leurs besoins. Voilà, donc c'est un peu ce que nous sommes en train de faire actuellement pour permettre à ces dames, finalement, de réussir leur campagne agricole, parce que vous avez dit gagner leur part, mais si elles ne réussissent pas leur campagne agricole, elles ne pourront pas. Donc il faut les aider, et nous professionnalisons parce que nous apportons de la formation technique agricole, mais nous apportons également de la formation managériale. Donc voilà comment nous sommes en train de les aider, et ça semble marcher. D'ailleurs, c'est visible sur notre page Facebook, vous pouvez voir comment cela se fait. Ça a été même médiatisé, Africa 24, RFI, etc. Bon, voilà, c'est ce que nous sommes en train de faire, parce qu'on pense que c'est une manière pour nous de les autonomiser, de les professionnaliser et donc de leur permettre de gagner leur part du gâteau. Merci.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, in particular, Your Excellency Ngobo, for keeping to time, very much appreciated. In order to increase the yields in the Congo, you're providing fertilizer and mechanization, creating protected agricultural zones, empowering women cooperatives and individuals, as well as providing training. I think one of the things that really has come out of this summit is the fact that increasingly there's that acknowledgement that women are not marginal. The fact is they are strategically essential to development. As Dr. Additional likes to say, no bird flies with one wing, and for that matter, no nation can fly just with the wings of men. They must fly with the wings of men and of women. So we thank you, Your Excellency, for what it is that you are doing in the Congo. We have just two more presentations to make, and then we will proceed to the boardrooms again where the action is taking place. My next question goes to His Excellency Sam Kwale, the Minister of Agriculture, Republic of Malawi. My question for you is, what policies are you putting in place indeed to attract private sector investment? The Honorable Minister from the Congo talked about that, and so many other ministers here. What are the practical things that you're doing to attract private sector investment?
Well, first of all, on behalf of people of Malawi, I would also like to say thank you to the President of Senegal for hosting us, as well as to the President of African Development Bank for inviting us. So thank you very much for that. Malawi as a country, we are prepared to host investors in different ways, but we do understand that no investor can go into a country if the laws are not friendly. So first of all, we are looking into making amendments or introducing legislation which is investor friendly. We've already done that by making sure that the land laws are actually friendly. An investor has to be confident to come and invest in the agriculture sector knowing that they are protected. We're also making sure that other laws for investors in the agriculture sector, like fertilizer manufacturers, we are making sure that we are welcoming them. We've amended the laws in terms of fertilizer, recognizing different types of products on the market so that investors can come and put their factories in there. Same thing with seed laws as well as financial laws. So legislation is important. We've done that. Secondly, we don't want an investor to come in and struggle to invest in the country. We have come up with one-stop center where an investor can come and find every information under one roof. That is helping a lot of investors to come and do transactions as fast as possible without having to go around office by office to find information. So those are some of the practical things that we are doing. But thirdly, we are also making sure that we are providing tax incentives. If you are coming in and invest in agriculture sector, we have come up with several incentives, including tax waivers or duty-free for equipment that is used in the agriculture sector. We want you to come and bring the equipment because one of the goals in our Vision 2063 in the agriculture sector is commercialization and mechanization. And for you to bring in that equipment, we're giving incentives where you don't have to pay taxes or duties. But we're not only looking just for the international investors. We do understand that there are also local investors. For the local investors, we do understand that financing is a problem. We've already started discussing about having an agriculture bank, and we will continue to discuss about this because financing is a big thing. But we are also grateful to our developing partners like World Bank and others. They are pumping in a lot of money in agriculture commercialization, which is helping the small-scale farmers, medium-scale farmers, and other investors to come and trade in the agriculture sector. But lastly, we do understand that infrastructure is important. That is why we're investing in road network using the funds we have from the budget, grants, and we're grateful to the US government through the Millennium Challenge account. We are also investing in roads that are passing through the areas that are highly productive in agriculture. We have rehabilitated the Dakar corridor as well as the Beira railway lines to make sure that once you produce locally, you can export the goods outside the country. That kind of investment in infrastructure are the things that we have put in place to develop agriculture. But as you said, the boardroom is where we're going to expand most of these things. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency Sam Kwale, for that, again, very concise response. Local value addition, one-stop centers, tax incentives, particularly in the area of mechanization, increased investor support, the setting up of an agricultural bank, and certainly providing critical needed infrastructure in areas of comparative agricultural advantage. Absolutely key to the future transformation of agriculture on the continent. We now take our last presentation from the only woman on the panel, Her Excellency Josephine Laguyanga, the Minister of Agriculture of the Republic of South Sudan. Sudan is one of the, you do have quite, actually of Sudan, not of South Sudan. South Sudan. You do have quite a bit of comparative advantages. We'd like to talk to you about what it is, what those comparative advantages are, and what your government intends to do to unleash your country's agricultural potential in spite of numerous challenges. Again, we've talked about challenges throughout the course of this summit, but even where there are challenges, we always find ways to overcome them. What is it that your government is doing to overcome the challenges that you're dealing with? Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Right. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I bring greetings to you from South Sudan, from our President Salva Kiir Mayardit, who would have wanted to attend this very, very important summit by himself, but due to other competing demands, he was unable to attend. But our country is well represented here. I'm here, of course, as the Minister for Agriculture and Food Security, but I was also accompanied by the Minister for Finance and Planning, and the governor of our central bank, the Central Bank of South Sudan, is also in attendance. In addition, we are also having a number of technocrats from the three institutions represented here. So we appreciate the President of the Republic of Senegal and also the African Development Bank, the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Adesina, for really, convening this very, very important summit timely. South Sudan, yes, has a lot of challenges, but before we go into that, let me just quickly, say a few things about my country. South Sudan is the youngest nation still on earth, definitely in the continent of Africa. South Sudan got its independence in 2011, so we are only 11 years old. And if our, neighbors and friends on the continent who are 60 years old or 50 years old still have food challenges, then what can we say about South Sudan? Worst of all, South Sudan, having attained its sovereignty in 2011, tragically descended into conflict. And it was only in 2018 that the parties to the conflict made an agreement, and that agreement is called the Agreement for the Resolution of Conflict in South Sudan, RRCs. That should have actually be expiring in February 2023, next month, but the parties to the agreement use their common sense, use their wisdoms, and have extended the implementation period for the agreement for 2 more years. And we have reached a roadmap that will finally lead the country to a fair and credible election in 2025. Yes, South Sudan has immense agricultural potential. Indeed, we have 33 million hectares of arable land, and only out of that, only 4% of that arable land is being cultivated upon. South Sudan also has immense, water resources. We have underground water resources as well as overground water resources. In fact, the longest river in the world, the Nile, the River Nile, runs through our country. We have a young population, and we have 7 agroecological zones where we can grow a range of crops, ranging from cereals to legumes to horticulture, name it, that country can grow any crops that is planted there. In addition to that, we are also blessed with, livestock. Our country has more livestock than humans, and the Minister for Livestock and Fisheries is on the record for saying that, our fish in the Nile are the only fish perhaps in the world that die of old age. So the potential for both, crop agriculture and livestock in our country is immense. And yet, the statistics are not very encouraging at the moment. There is food, acute food insecurity. Over 60% of the population are food insecure. 1.4 million children are malnourished. A number of hundreds and maybe thousands of women, lactating women and pregnant mothers are, malnourished. And so it's not a situation that we would like our country to continue to be in. Our president is very, very passionate about improving agriculture. We have come up with a number of measures to ensure that actually we develop agriculture and transform agriculture from the subsistence farming level where we are at the moment to commercialize, mechanize, industrialize agriculture. And we believe that we have the potential, we have the resources. South Sudan produces oil. But, oil is a finite resource. So we are not going to be, depending on oil as we do at the moment. We are going to move away and to transform our agriculture sector so that agriculture in South Sudan becomes the engine of economic growth in that country. And with that, it will become a job multiplier, and then we'll also hopefully be able to, solve some of the problem our young people are, getting drawn into. War and conflict and poverty and underdevelopment are all interlinked. So we believe that when we develop the agriculture sector, we'll be able to attract young people into the sector. We'll be able to attract women into the sector. And we have a comprehensive agriculture master plan that is enabling the country to chart its way towards agricultural transformation in the country. There are a number of things that we are doing. We are popularizing agriculture and trying to move it away from the negative perception of looking at agriculture as, as a vocation for those who have failed or those who cannot do anything else. We are saying no, agriculture is a very, very important vocation. We can make it attractive. Agriculture can pay as long as we can commercialize it. That's one of the things that we are doing. We are also supporting our small-scale farmers. We believe that small-scale farmers are very important, and in fact, they constitute about 80% of our farmers. And out of that 80%, 63% are women. 63% of our farm workers are women. So we are encouraging both women and young people to engage in agriculture so as to improve their livelihood and improve their means of securing funding. The government is also involved in increasing funding of the agriculture sector, and we are aligning our policy here with the Malabo Compact of ensuring that national governments devote at least 10% of their national budget to agriculture. We haven't yet reached there, but we are making progress, and we hope that in the next 5 or so years, we'll be able to move away from 3.5% of the budget to at least 7%. And we believe with that, we'll be able to, develop the infrastructure of agriculture that we so badly need. We are also involved in capacity building. We are involved in securing financing from our development partners and other, commercial or private sectors. It's not very, very easy. It's rather challenging, but we are appealing to, development partners, not to be, very suspicious of South Sudan. We are stabilizing the country. We are securing peace. The next thing that we want to do is to engage in development so that the country can, South Sudan can feed itself. And we believe South Sudan has the ability to feed itself so that South Sudan also can, in turn, contribute to feeding Africa. We believe we have the resources to become the Ukraine of East Africa. We can become...
And on that note, we're going to say big amen to that, Honorable Minister.
Yes.
You could just wrap up your thoughts in the next 15, 20 seconds.
Yes. We can become the, Ukraine of Africa. We can become the breadbasket of, the region and so much more. So we, appreciate this opportunity just to give you, a small highlight of what is possible in our country as long as we commit to maintaining and stabilizing the peace in our country. And I believe the political leadership of my country is committed towards that. All the parties to the agreement are committed to ensuring that the peace holds. And the President of the Republic said many times that he will not take the country back to war. So South Sudan is ready for development, and we are calling on our partners, including the African Development Bank, not to sideline South Sudan. You know, engage with us, talk with us, and we can change with your support. Thank you very much.
Her Excellency Josephine Laguyanga, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security in the South Sudan, accompanied by the Minister of Finance and the Central Bank Governor, obviously showing your political commitment to revolutionizing agriculture in the South Sudan. It's heartening to see that you've underpinned everything that you've said with your discussion about the creation of a roadmap for peace, security, and free elections, which will undergird everything else that you build on top of that. 4% of your land is arable land is cultivated, leaving behind 96%. And of your smallholder farmers, 63% of them are women. You have fantastic potential in livestock. You said you have more livestock than human beings, and that the fish in the Nile in the south of Sudan are the only fish in the world that die of old age. Wow, talking about potential. We're going to wrap up this session, but one of the things I want to point out, please kindly give Her Excellency a round of applause here. I want us to wrap up this session with a very simple thought. We've talked about PPP, but I want to talk about a different kind of PPP this evening, and it's the P of passion. Every single one of our panelists has spoken about agriculture, its potential, and what they're doing with great passion. And for that, they deserve a round of applause. They've talked about great potential in spite of challenges, human and natural. But they've also talked about what it is that they're doing to increase the third P, which is productivity. The PPPs of passion, potential, productivity indeed will accelerate and transform agriculture on our continent. I see some hands raised, but we really do have to close and move into the boardrooms beginning right now. So on this note, I want to ask our audience here to give a warm round of applause to His Excellency Gilberto Silva, the Minister of Agriculture, Republic of Cabo Verde, His Excellency Gabriel Nairobi, Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Republic of Cameroon, His Excellency Mohamed Ahmed Awale, the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, Livestock and Fisheries in Djibouti, His Excellency Dr. Elmi Emnur, the Minister of Finance, Federal Republic of Somalia, His Excellency Kialuka Fred Bueno, the Minister of State for Agriculture in Uganda, and His Excellency Paul Valentin Ngobo, the Minister of Agriculture, the Republic of Congo, as well as His Excellency Sam Kwali, Minister of Agriculture, Republic of Malawi, and Her Excellency Josephine Laguyanga, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security in the Republic of South Sudan, and last but not least, His Excellency Frimpong Addo, the Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture, Republic of Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly give them a warm, warm round of applause. And Excellencies, thank you for your time and thank you for your contributions. My name is Victor Ladukun, and it's been a wonderful pleasure being the moderator of this event. Thank you.